This is your News Source Evening Bulletin for today, Wednesday, the 17th day of June in the year 2020. I'm Gordon Mosley. Here is what we're tracking tonight. President David Granger this afternoon met with the leaders and senior officials of the other parties in the APNU-AFC coalition. The meeting lasted for close to 90 minutes and took place at State House, the official residence of the president. Most of the officials were tight-lipped as they hurried off after the meeting, offering no comment. However, APNU General Secretary and coalition candidate Joe Harmon said he is still of the opinion that the chief elections officer, in his report to the chairperson of the commission, can only present valid votes that take into account the anomalies that were raised during the recount of votes. Mr. Harmon maintains that he does not believe that the votes which were linked to the anomalies unearthed during the recount ought to be considered valid.
The chief elections officer can only make a declaration on valid votes. And under Section 96, that is, he is enjoined to make a declaration on valid votes. And I will address that later on.
So, what are you guys optimistic that he will change his report?
Well, we're not asking him to change his report. He's already made a report which said that the districts 1 to 10 all contain significant anomalies, and therefore he could not declare that they were fair and they were a true reflection of the will of the Guyanese people in those districts. So he doesn't have to change his report, he has to stick to his report.
According to the APNU General Secretary, the Chief Elections Officer Keith Lowenfield has been consistent with his position on the issue of anomalies, and he is hoping that the consistency will continue as he prepares his report for the chairperson.
Well, nothing surprises me these days, but the point I want to make is that I think he has been consistent in what he's been doing, and we just ask him to remain consistent. Thank you.
What will be the next step if this one fails?
Well, it's not a matter of failure or whatever. We don't have any considerations in that regard. There's a 4-stage process, and we've always said we remain faithful to the process, and that the last thing, which will be the declaration, we remain faithful to that as well.
The chairperson of the Guyana Elections Commission, Justice Claudette Singh, in a statement yesterday, made it clear that the Elections Commission is not empowered to investigate the anomalies discovered during the recount, and it also has no power to annul the elections. Justice Singh said those matters will have to be taken before the courts. She has asked the Chief Elections Officer to prepare his final report based on the votes of the recount. More news coming up in just a moment.
Hello, boys and girls. As you prepare to write your exams, there are a few things you will have to do each day so that you and those around you can be safe and healthy. Please remember, on the day of your exam, you must wear a mask correctly, covering your mouth and nose before entering the school compound. Wash your hands with soap and water at the entrance of the school at the sink provided for 20 seconds. Paying attention to the palm and back of your hands, between your fingers and their tips. Dry your hands with a clean tissue and dispose in the closed bin nearby. Boys and girls, your temperature will be tested by an official. Then you will go to the designated waiting area with the floor signs and markings clearly visible, standing or sitting 2 meters or 6 feet apart at all times. It is now time to start your exam. The invigilator will direct you to the examination room. All the best. Boys and girls, playing and gathering are not allowed. Parents, the Ministry of Education thanks you for the support you have given the children during the time at home. However, in the interest of everyone's well-being, you will not be allowed to enter the school compound. Parents and guardians, we are counting on your support in picking up the children promptly after their exam. Remember, the Ministry of Education will provide transport for children who are living far away that require that assistance. Please be reminded that vending outside the school's compound is prohibited. Only authorized canteen vendors with a copy of their food handler certificate and wearing a mask, food gloves, apron, hairnet, and a hat will be allowed. Always remember to wear your mask correctly, wash your hands, and stay safe. And let's win the fight against COVID-19. A message from the Ministry of Education.
We all want to stay in touch, right? Now, even more than ever before. So to keep your connection strong, GTT is going 2 for 2. Combine GTT mobile and home internet services and we'll give you 2 gigs of free mobile data each month. With 2 GTT services, you're fully connected at home and on the go. Visit us online at gtt.co.gy/2for2 to learn more and start doing more with 2 for 2 from GTT. Stay safe, stay strong, Guyana. We're in this together.
GBTI is your Guyanese bank, a bank that understands every customer's unique needs, opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. At GBTI, we see you for you. Whether you're buying a new home or car, planning your next vacation or retirement, saving for your child's future, or whether you're ready to take that bold step of investing in your dream business idea, we are with you every step of the way. We hear your stories and watch you focus on your dreams as we share your aspirations. We are more than just banking. We are a family. We are part of your community. Our commitment extends way beyond the walls of our branches and is demonstrated every day in the opportunities we provide to our individual and business customers. The support, time, and commitment we give back to communities across Guyana to help improve the lives of our Guyanese families. Because we see Guyana through your eyes.
The following is an important message from the Ministry of Public Health. Getting your workplace ready for COVID-19. Surfaces such as desks, tables, and telephones with keyboards must be wiped with disinfectant regularly, or at least every few hours. Use containers of hand sanitizers and place them in prominent places around the workplace. Provide access to places where staff can wash their hands with soap and water, and promote regular hand washing at the workplace. The Ministry of Public Health has a hotline to provide information on the coronavirus. Members of the public can call 227-4986 or 624-3067.
Welcome back. On the eve of the Chief Election Officer's submission of his final report for the declaration of results, PPP executive member and candidate Anandrao believes that the Chief Elections Officer has no choice but to follow the law and present the certified votes from the recount as requested by the chairperson of the Elections Commission. In an interview with News Source today, Mr. Anandrao said he totally disagrees with the position of APNU AFC executive Joe Harmon, who believes that the valid votes cannot include those from ballot boxes with alleged anomalies. Mr. Anandrao explained that the law is clear on what is considered a valid vote and how it could deal with invalid votes.
Once a ballot, the paper is authentic and it's duly authorized, meaning that it has the 6-digit stamp of the presiding officer or any part thereof, and it contains a mark of the elector, which is clearly inscribed on that piece of paper, closely proximate to the symbol of a political party, that vote is presumptively a valid vote. And the only tribunal authorized in law to question the validity of such a document is the High Court by way of an elections petition.
The People's Progressive Party Civic has repeatedly said that the Guyana Elections Commission is not a court of law, and therefore it has no jurisdiction to hear and determine allegations of irregularities. The Elections Commission chairperson agreed with that position in her statement to the media yesterday. Mr. Anandrao today said the Elections Commission chairperson has been clear in her request of the Chief Elections Officer, and the Chief Elections Officer is now expected to present his report based on the tabulated figures from the vote recount. He said the only thing left now for Mr. Lowenfield to do is to calculate the seats in Parliament for the contesting parties.
All Mr. Lowenfield now has to do is, using those tabulated figures, he now has to calculate the number of seats to be allocated to each party based upon the number of votes they have received, pursuant to the provisions of Section 96 of the ROPA, and then 96 refers him to 97, and 98, and then 99, it culminates with the preparation of another report. which would be the total seats to be allocated to each party. And when those sections are read in tandem with 177, Article 177 of the Constitution, and I pause here to say what 177 essentially says. 177 says that when there are two or more presidential candidates representing different lists, the presidential candidate of the list that receives the largest number of votes is deemed to have been elected the president. Let me just pause there. So right now, Lowenfield has already tabulated, and Irfan Ali is already deemed to be elected the president because according to Lowenfield's tabulation, PPP has received the largest block of votes, 233,000 or thereabouts.
The former Attorney General said the Chief Election Officer, being subject to the Commission, can neither defy nor act outside of the law, in keeping with the report requested by the chairperson. Once Mr. Lowenfield hands in his report, that will pave the way for the official declaration and the swearing in of the President. Now let's tell you that the National COVID-19 Task Force has announced that while the 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew will remain in place until the 2nd of July, it has started a 6-phase reopening of the country. In its statement, the task force said the curfew will remain in place in all 10 administrative regions, while the 2 regions where there are no COVID-19 cases, Region 5 and Region 8, will have all of their non-curfew measures lifted from this evening. For the rest of the country, persons are still being encouraged to stay at home unless it is absolutely necessary to leave their homes. The use of face masks is also being encouraged once persons leave their homes. Physical distancing rules are to continue, and food establishments, including street vendors, will be allowed to operate takeout and delivery services between the hours of 6 a.m. and 5 p.m. Dine-in services are still not permitted. Hardware, plumbing, and electrical stores will be allowed to operate from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m., while public transportation will also have to continue to operate with 50% capacity. Gatherings of more than 5 persons are also still not permitted. Bars are to remain closed, and contact sports are also not being allowed. Citizens are to be allowed 90 minutes of exercise per day in open public spaces between the hours of 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. The task force said the Drainage and Irrigation Authority is now classified as an essential service, as it is necessary for the timely opening and closing of sluices, which is critical at this time of regular heavy rainfall. Airports are expected to remain closed until they begin their phase reopening from the 1st of July. Repatriation and other specially authorized flights are to be allowed. Meanwhile, phase 3 of the reopening measures will take effect from the 17th of July. On the phase 3, the entire public service will return to work, but flexible time and staggering of hours will be encouraged. Private sector construction will restart, and domestic travels to commence with strict screening protocols from the 17th of July. Phase 4 will begin on the 31st of July. Then they will allow the reopening of hair salons, spas, nail salons, and barbershops. Taxis and buses will be allowed to increase passenger capacity to 75%. They will also look to relax restrictions on weddings, funerals, and social gatherings, and the reopening of bars and nightclubs. Group exercise or recreation with physical distancing and the reopening of houses of worship will also be done during that phase 4 from the 31st of July. Phase 5 will begin on the 14th of August, and that will cater for the reopening of malls, theaters, and cultural facilities and gyms. Phase 6 is expected to begin from the 28th of August. At that time, the government will address the reopening of Guyana's international airports, the seaports, water and land points of entry. The hotel industry will also resume operation with strict safety protocols. Tourism and transportation related businesses are expected to also resume with safety protocols. Schools will remain closed until September. Guyana currently has 57 active cases of the coronavirus disease. While the Private Sector Commission headed by Captain Jerry Gavaya has issued a call on President David Granger to publicly concede to the results of the elections. The PSC, which acted as an observer for the elections but is still to release a report, today stated that based on the recount, it has been established that the People's Progressive Party Civic has won the elections and will form the next government. According to the PSC, it is gratified that democracy has prevailed and that the people's voice has been heard and acknowledged protected by the Constitution which governs the country. The group has offered congratulations to the People's Progressive Party and its presidential candidate Irfan Ali, while calling on the incumbent president to recognize the decision of the GCOM chairperson. The GCOM chair is expected to make a declaration of the election results after being provided with a report from the chief elections officer. The Private Sector Commission today also called on all of the political parties that contested the elections to ensure that their supporters recognize and accept the results of the elections and remain calm and peaceful, while joining hands to move the country forward. The PSC was named in the CARICOM report on the recount as one of the bodies that made all types of demands of the Elections Commission during the vote recount process. In welcoming the report of the CARICOM high-level team that scrutinized the vote recount, the European Union observer group that was present for the elections is urging an expeditious conclusion of the electoral process in accordance with the tabulation from the vote recount. The EU mission reiterated that the voting and counting process of the Guyana elections were well managed, as was the tabulation in 9 of the 10 voting districts. The EU said the entire electoral process was seriously compromised by the earlier tabulation of results in the Region 4 area. It was concern over that tabulation that led to the vote recount, which went on for over 30 days. The vote recount was initiated by President David Granger, and the undeclared tabulation shows the People's Progressive Party ahead of the incumbent APNU-AFC by more than 15,000 votes. The chairperson of the Elections Commission has since requested the Chief Elections Officer to compile his report for the declaration based on the vote recount. The APNU-AFC has complained about various cases of fraud that were uncovered during the recount. While acknowledging that the complaints are serious and ought to be investigated, the chairperson of GCOM has said it is for the High Court to handle that matter and not the Elections Commission. The Chief Elections Officer is expected to submit his report by 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Outlandish social media commentator Mikel Rodriguez, also known as the Guyanese Critic, has offered an on-camera apology to the Christian and Afro-Guyanese communities over his hate-filled racist Facebook rant that triggered protests and calls to cancel the critic. In a 4-minute video recording released by the Ethnic Relations Commission, Rodriguez explained that he has chosen to apologize following his meeting with the ERC and after receiving several calls and messages from persons who were offended by his racist statements.
I would not give any credence to my actions or try to explain context at this time based on advice from persons who are obviously more learned than I am. I, Mikel Rodriguez, have chosen to apologize, and I think it is fair in moving forward from here. I use that platform to foster better relation between all Guyanese. I have, like I've always said before, have offered up my platform and now to the ERC to better moving forward and fostering better relations. Again, I sincerely apologize for my utterances. I also apologize for the pain and anguish caused.
Rodriguez was called before the Ethnic Relations Commission after it received a flood of complaints about his racist and distasteful comments against the Afro-Guyanese and Christian communities. In a press release today, the Ethnic Relations Commission said the statements made by the Guyanese Critic were viewed as insensitive, unethical, and anti-Guyanese and caused outrage among the Christian and black communities. The ERC said his statements represented an attack on the religious beliefs of the Christian community and insulted the intellectual intelligence of Afro-Guyanese, and his conduct is an affront against the bedrock of a united Guyana. Rodriguez has been cautioned by the Ethnic Relations Commission that any recurrence of his irresponsible remarks will warrant prosecutions against him by the Commission for his conduct. The Commission reminded that it is a criminal offense for anyone to incite racial hatred or violence against any person or against any segment of the society. A group of persons gathered again this morning outside the home of Rodriguez, who they said has repeatedly made racist remarks against the Afro-Guyanese community and should now face the courts for his actions and not just be made to apologize by the Ethnic Relations Commission. On the police blotter, a 26-year-old man who brandished a number of firearms in a video that went viral on social media has been arrested and remains in custody tonight. In a statement this evening, the Guyana Police Force said the weapons belong to a private security firm and have all been seized as part of the investigations. In the video recording, the man could be heard singing a popular local song that was part of the elections campaign for the coalition and threatening to use violence if they don't want to come out. The Guyana Police Force said it launched an immediate investigation once the video came to its attention, and that led to the arrest and the seizure of the firearms. Across the Region is coming up next.
They've made a positive impact on the heavy-duty transportation industry in Guyana since they've arrived. Guyanese are amazed at their power, durability, efficiency, and superior handling capabilities. These are brand new trucks, manufactured in partnership with German, Italian, and French companies. They have a powerful reputation for operating under very adverse Guyanese conditions and come with full after-sales service and spare parts. They're the most sought-after trucks today, with over 500 units in Guyana, and they're available in over 100 countries, including South America and the Caribbean. Be smart. Buy brand new ST Howo trucks today. Call 608-4998 and arrange for an inspection at ST Truck Guyana Incorporated, Block B, Public Road, Covenant, East Bank, Demerara.
We are legions of men standing strong, but never too proud to stoop and help someone. We must send a clear signal to all. Do right. Walk in upright ways, knowing that's what being a man is all about. And ever aware that things will only get worse when good men do nothing. Stand strong. Be the one to live right.
Hi Guyana, it's your boy Kimo Paul here. Reminding you to stay at least 1 meter away from persons, or 3 feet, to avoid contracting the flu or the COVID-19. It is also important that we stay at home and to avoid gatherings of more than 5 persons. We must all play our part, so let's protect ourselves and our families from COVID-19. We must all play our part. The Ministry of Public Health cannot do this alone, so let's all come together and fight this virus.
For further information, check our website www.health.gov.gy or visit the ministry's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or Twitter page.
Across the region right now, the death toll from the coronavirus in Haiti has reached 80 as the country recorded 4 more deaths over the past 24 hours. The Ministry of Public Health in Haiti in its daily bulletin gave no details as to what part of the country the victims had come from, but said that there were 106 new cases of the virus, bringing the total of cases in Haiti to 4,547 since the first case was detected on the 19th of March. It said active cases were now 4,443, an increase of 102 over the last 24 hours. Meanwhile, the authorities said the number of active cases, excluding those who have healed or died, is growing twice the rate as in the neighboring country of the Dominican Republic, where 23,686 positive cases and 615 deaths have been recorded. Nation News in Barbados is reporting tonight that one of the challenges Barbados is facing in an attempt to reopen its borders and stimulate economic activity after the COVID-19 lockdown is a refusal by commercial airlines to conduct testing prior to travel. But the safety of both travelers and Barbadian remains paramount to the Mia Mottley administration. That's according to the statement made by the Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley. Appearing on a radio program in Canada, the Prime Minister said there was still no exact date on when the borders would open, but the aim is to open back Barbados in the safest of ways over the next few weeks. The island has been closed to commercial travel for several weeks, but continues to facilitate repatriation flights. And finally tonight, international news. The Indian and Chinese foreign ministers have exchanged protests over clashes in a disputed Himalayan border area, which led to the deaths of at least 20 Indian soldiers. India's foreign minister said China tried to erect a structure inside Indian territory, while China's foreign minister said it was the Indian troops who attacked first. But in a phone call, the two men promised not to escalate the situation. It was the first deadly clash at the disputed border for at least 45 years. Soldiers reportedly brawled with sticks and bats, but no shots were fired. China has not released casualty figures, but unconfirmed reports in Indian media say at least 40 Chinese soldiers died. Some Indian soldiers are still believed to be missing. And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight. I'm Gordon Mosley, reporting.